Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. We have seen our first games in the last 16 of Euro 2024 and there is a lot to discuss. We've got Frank Leboeuf here with us in the studio. We are delighted to have him here. We've also got Stevie Nicol and a little later we'll be hearing from Jurgen Klinsmann and Gab Marcotti as well. We are beginning with the game between Switzerland and Italy. Don't worry, we'll get to Germany, Denmark in just a short while. But Italy, the defending Euro champions, knocked out by the Swiss in a stadium where they won the 2006 World Cup. Remo Freuler and Ruben Vargas with both of the goals, and there can be no complaints from Spalletti's men. Let's welcome in Jurgen and Gab now to talk more about it. Let me start with you, Gab. What happened to Italy in this tournament?
Well, okay, we knew that, this wasn't a particularly talented group, but nobody expected them to be particularly good, but nobody expected them, I think, to be as bad as what we saw against Switzerland today. This was a completely one-sided performance. Switzerland may or may not be more talented. I'm not sure that they are, but they're certainly more intelligent and they worked harder and they were just a better side on the day. And I think you have to point a lot of fingers here, and I don't often like to do this, at the coach, at Luciano Spalletti, this chopping and changing every game after he said, we're going to have a strong identity. This certainly hasn't helped. And again, delusional after the game. I don't want to hear you say, it was really, really hot. The other guys are Swiss. They live in the mountains. You don't think it was hot for them? You bring up things like, oh, well, it hurt us to concede that goal 60 seconds into the second half. Really? Thank you, Captain Obvious. The other guys their build-up play was faster than ours. Gee, if only we had a coach that could tell the players, hey, build up the play faster. Their players are faster than ours. You know what? You do have fast players, but what happens is Di Marco's out. Do you replace him with Raul Bellanova, who's arguably the fastest player on the team? No, you don't. You put on Matteo Darmian, who's 34 years old, who's not even a left back. He's a center back impersonating a left back. Look, I thought, and in the end they asked him, do you take responsibility? He's like, well, as a coach, you always have to take responsibility. Like he didn't really want to. I have much more respect for the players who came out very obviously. Gigio Donnarumma saying we deserve to go out, Cristante saying we were terrible, and whatever else. And that's the reality, and that's what I think Spalletti has to face up to.
Well, Gab, you sound pretty animated about this, so you're not buying the fact that Spalletti also said that the other Italian coaches had longer than he had to work with this team.
Oh, yes. That was the other excuse. You know what? If Mancini hadn't left to go coach in Saudi Arabia and chase the money, you wouldn't even be in this job. I don't know. I don't know what is up with this person. He lives in his own world. Look, he's been Serie A Coach of the Year 3 times. He won the title, did a phenomenal job with Napoli. People speak of him in hushed tones like he's some sort of tactical savant. Maybe he is. But maybe he is at club level where you can have endless repetitions, where you can do 2-a-days, where you can work with your players year round. But if you coach internationally, and Jurgen knows this better than anyone, you don't have time. You have to make decisions on the fly. You have to read situations. You have to read individuals. And when it comes to that, I think Spalletti's just really been horrendous in this.
Jurgen, were you surprised to see such a lack of identity in an Italian national side?
Yeah, I think we all are really shocked. And I watched the game with Italian commentary. And obviously, they went all over the place then in the second half, over the team, over the coach, the manager. But it was really, really sad to see an Italian side. I've never seen an Italian side with lacking basically everything. No aggressiveness, which they are really good. They're usually always more aggressive than you are. They had no desire to go the extra mile. They had no help for each other. There was no leadership. I mean, Donnarumma tried a little bit to bring in a bit of energy and helping his teammates in front of him. The other ones were all quiet and nobody stepped up. Chiesa didn't say a word. Bastoni didn't say a word. You looked desperately for somebody doing something, do a foul, do something just to wake everybody up. But this team was non-existent against a very strong Swiss side. They deserve every compliment in the world under the leadership of especially Xhaka on the field. Fantastic Swiss performance. But what Italy showed tonight was an embarrassment. It's a shame. This is not, you don't find the words, because I know these guys. I know how they live and die for their country and for their national team, for the Azzurri. But there was no energy in that team. There was no nastiness, no desire to do something individual. Maybe go at somebody like Scamacca, take the ball and just go at a defender, dribble him one time and then shoot from 25 yards. Just send out a signal, do something. They didn't do anything. The Italian side didn't do anything to make things better. They were just literally waiting until the game was over and they could go home. It was like almost like, please let me go on vacation. It's not my summer in Germany. And that is, it's really sad, because I suffer there with a lot of Italian friends. I got bombarded with text messages from my Italian friends. I said, what was this? We never had that before. And so this is going to be an earthquake in Italy the next couple of days. An earthquake, and God knows that far better from the media side. It's gonna go to the extremes.
To Spalletti's comments, though, I knew you yourself were really surprised, Frank, with what he had to say about his team having a lack of tempo, about him needing players with different characteristics as well in this side. You thought it was very, very telling that he said this after the game.
Yeah, it says a lot about the fact that for decades now, and maybe the win 2 years ago in the Euro was as I say, the tree was hidden the rest of the forest. But for decades, I don't recognize the country who brought so many World Cups and so many other trophies that we saw. We're not talking about a random country. We're talking about Italy. Italy showed during the history that they were one of the best, if it's not the best, for a while, fighting against Brazil and maybe Germany, but otherwise, they were the best. And I don't recognize, since 2006, the country that it was so hard to beat. And yeah, the energy wasn't there today, but there are so many other things that they have to work on to make sure that this country, this team, goes back to the best of their best. And they're far away from there. And thinking that it's just an accident would be the biggest mistake they would make.
Spalletti, how much of the blame do you put on him, Stevie?
Oh my goodness! I'm sure Italians watching the team perform and will be disappointed the way the players played. But if you're going to go out and you're going to go out the way they did, at least try and extract some dignity from it. If you're Spalletti, and all he's done is throw his players under the bus big time. But quite frankly, in doing that, I think he's made himself look bad. Not just because of he's thrown the players under the bus, but Italy went down as though they had no plan. And guess who's responsible for the plan? The coach. Gab's talking about at club level where you can repeat and repeat and repeat, and you can do your drills and everything else. And a coach at this level in international football has to at least, number one, get his team competitive and get them in some sort of shape where they know what they're trying to do. And if it doesn't work out, or you're playing against a better team, then everybody can sort of accept it. But you can't accept this. And for me, the way Spalletti's gone about it makes himself look bad, and throwing the players under the bus is not the way to go.
What happens to Spalletti now then, Gab?
Well, he's talked about, well, now we're going to sit down. We're going to figure out, the future going forward, blah, blah, blah. Personally, I don't think he's suited to being a national team coach. I just genuinely don't. He's done some good things. He's done a lot of weird things in the past, maybe even this business. Talk about throwing players under the bus. He talked about before the game how Scamacca was lazy. Maybe that works to motivate. Maybe if you got a player, I challenge him. I call him lazy in public. But you can't do that in a tournament with a guy you hardly know because you've only just called him up to the national team. He needs to start understanding these things. And frankly, Spalletti is the second or third highest paid coach at the Euros. You look at the other coaches, you look at some of these guys who are doing really, really well. These aren't fancy coaches. Maybe that's not what you need. Maybe you just need a man manager, the guy who can come in, read situations. I don't need the tactical savant, especially if he comes from with all the baggage and all the weirdness that Spalletti takes at the job.
Gab, we heard fireworks behind you there. Was that the Swiss celebrating?
Yeah.
No, I'm in Berlin. I believe those were German celebrations. There were certainly more than enough Swiss celebrating on my ride home from the Olympic Stadium, though.
I can understand that Gab is upset. I understand why, and I understand the criticism that you can have towards Spalletti, because, as you said, the tactic comes from him, and he has to conduct his team. But at the end of the day, we are talking about the national team, and players who belong in the national team have the maturity and the knowledge about the fact that they can change the game, and by their energy, and Jürgen was talking about it, by the way they can feel it, and it's a game of intuition, so that they have the possibility to change it and to talk to each other, and we don't see that. We don't see any character in that team. That's the main issue that they have, on top of what Spalletti is not able to do and to achieve with the national team. But the players didn't do anything. I didn't see any reaction from the players.
Did you just want to say something there, Gab?
No, look, it's fine. You can. I think I agree on. Obviously, look, Frank's been there, and we know how players and leaders can step up. Certainly, I was there. I thought somebody like Barella tried to do with it. They do have players with personality. But I think when you create an environment like this, when you go into the tournament telling everybody how brave you are, how you're going to, press and pass, and, oh, look, I brought these young players in. Look at Folorunshu. Look at Bellanova. Look how wonderful these young guys are. And then what do? You give me Darmian. You give me Cristante. You give me Stefan El Shaarawy, who I think most people assumed had retired years ago. He didn't retire. He went to China, and instead then he's been sitting on the bench for the last 4 years at Roma. When you go in a totally different direction, I think it's pretty soul destroying to the guys who are out there. When you drop Jorginho, again, that's another one. Oh, look, Jorginho. I actually think he dropped Jorginho partly because of this range of passing nonsense, and partly because, like a lot of Italian people, and Jurgen can back me up on this, he's superstitious. And Jorginho's the bad luck charm who missed those 2 penalties against Switzerland in the 2 games in qualifying for the 22 World Cup. And that's why he's not there. I don't know. I'm sorry. I am annoyed. The players, the squad's incomplete. A lot of the players aren't good enough. But they certainly cannot justify this sort of performance. And Spalletti wasn't part of the solution. He was most definitely part of the problem.
And they absolutely cannot complain about the fact, Jürgen, that it is Switzerland who are now going on to the quarterfinals, because they completely deserve to be.
Absolutely. I mean, they played outstanding. I mean, they did everything right. They showed, the spirit from the beginning on. They put Italy under pressure. They won every second ball. I think Xhaka played a fantastic match as their leader. Freuler with this beautiful goal that he scored. Absolutely a brilliant Swiss team. But they took advantage of that weak performance from Italy. They took advantage of the fact that the Italians didn't want to give them a real fight. They didn't want to step up towards them. Didn't show any nastiness. They didn't show any fight in them. And then they cruised through the game. They probably were surprised as much as we all were in front of the TV that it was actually so easy to beat Italy. The first time since 31 years. This is incredible. This is unbelievable, and they deserve a huge, huge compliment.
They will now face the winner of England against Slovakia. You see Switzerland as a force to be reckoned with and a team to not be underestimated.
Well, I guess the toughest thing is to work out, were Switzerland that good today, or were Italy just a bit of a shambles?
What do you say?
I say that Switzerland, absolutely. If England go through, which we expect, and if they don't, Slovakia as well, if they perform with the maturity and the calmness the way they did against Italy today, then they will be a fight for anybody. Switzerland's a side that on their day can beat anybody in this tournament, no question, including France, who I think are the favourites. So yeah, I think Switzerland were excellent. They were made to look even better probably by a poor Italian side, but the mix they've got of strength at the back, experience, they've got legs, they've got know-how, they've got all the things you need as a unit. Unfortunately for Gab, just all the things that Italy showed us today, they don't have.
Lanati, they are called, have proved for a couple of years, and I remember the Euro, kicking out the French in the quarterfinal. that they have the quality to go far and to upset big nations. So, of course, if England think that they're going to go through against Slovakia and then after maybe easily beat the Swiss, they are wrong. They're going to be kicked back. So they have to respect them, make sure they have all ingredients, otherwise they're going to suffer. We saw today it came from everybody: Freuler, Xhaka, and Mbolo, Reader at the back with Akanji. They're very strong. So it's going to be tricky to every team who's going to confront the Swiss.
Gab, you get your final say here on Switzerland.
Look, I think this is a great example. There's a story in there. Back in October, Switzerland played Belarus at home with 2 minutes to go. They were 3-1 down. They somehow scored 2 goals in the final minutes, drew 3-3. Yakin afterwards said something really dumb, saying like, well, he was asked about the defensive organization. He's like, well, we don't really need to prepare defensively against a team like Belarus. He was absolutely slaughtered for it. People wanted him sacked. And look, where is he now? He's in the quarterfinals of the Euros, and then people like Stevie are saying all these wonderful things about him. I think this shows how things can change, but you have to have empathy. You have to understand the mood. You have to understand your players and the job around you. All qualities that Luciano Spalletti hasn't shown, at least not with the Italy side.
Gab, we're going to let you go off and let off some steam because we can see that you're a little bit upset. Upset after what's happened today. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll be speaking to you again soon. And you can hear a lot more from Gab and Jules, but this time it's Gab and Mark on the latest Gab and Jules show. It is coming to you from Germany throughout the Euros twice a week, wherever you do get your podcasts. All right, to the other game today where Germany beat Denmark 2-0. We saw a weather delay in the first half due to thunderstorms and heavy rain. We also saw Denmark go ahead, but that goal was disallowed for offside. Ball then goes up the other end. Germany get a penalty, which Kai Havertz put away, and Jamal Musiala added another in the 68th minute to make it 2-0. Jurgen Klinsmann still with us. Jurgen, your thoughts after what we saw from the Germans today?
Well, 2-0 sounds really nice. I think it was far closer. It was a very, very tight game. Denmark gave it all. They scored the first goal, and it was then disallowed literally for half an inch of offside. I mean, half an inch, if so. And just a minute later, they conceded that handball penalty, which you can discuss, but eventually it was slightly handball, so he has to give it. And Germany goes up a goal and then scores another one with Musiala at the end. I think overall that Germany had more from the game. They had more chances. They created a lot in the first half an hour. But Denmark was always present. Denmark always gave it a go, had their chances too. So it was an open game until Musiala basically sealed it with the second goal. But overall, I think it was deserved for Germany. Now, obviously, they're going to watch, who's going to be the opponent in the quarterfinals. It was a very, very good game. Unfortunately, it had this weather delay. It suddenly the hail came down and rained like crazy. And a lot of people already feel that they might have to replay that game tomorrow. But thankfully, they could continue the game about 10, 15 minutes later. And being on the winning front is fantastic for the country, for that German team, for Julian Nagelsmann, who does a really, really good job with the boys. So hopefully we can continue that way.
Stevie, the handball, when Germany got the penalty, what did you make of that moment from Anderson?
I think straight away it's a case of that's the way the game's refereed today. There's absolutely nothing that Anderson can do. He's running that way. His motion is going that way. His hand is not in a unnatural position whatsoever. But as I said, it's just because of the way the game's refereed today that we all go penalty straight away. And of course, VAR agrees with the referee, it's a penalty. But I don't like it because there's nothing that Anderson can do. There is absolutely no fault on Anderson whatsoever. It's just a fact of the way that the game's refereed. That a situation like that is looked upon as a penalty kick. For me, it's not, but that's the way the game's refereed today. So it is.
Do you agree with Stevie that
I do agree, and it's sad because they created VAR to maybe avoid debates. We never had so many debates about that, and especially on handballs. I think they should change it because it takes out the fact that we are talking about human beings, and so you have to make sure that you have to see if there is a way of thinking that the guy didn't do it on purpose, and that's the case for Anderson. So in that case, if the ball goes to the end, and like it used to be in my time, there is not a foul. It's not the other way around. I can understand if you do that you try to catch the ball or you try to make yourself bigger. That I have no problem whatsoever. But if your hand doesn't move and because you run, the ball comes to your hand, there is no, for me, penalty. That's unfair for the Danes. That's good for the Germans. It's how it is. We don't have to complain because that's the rule right now. I think it has to be rethought.
Stevie, do you agree with Jurgen that it was closer than 2-0 suggests between these two sides?
If you're Danish, you're looking at the two chances that Højlund had. But I think overall, when the Germans were in charge of the game, they looked dangerous. I think for the Germans, the worrying thing would be there was periods in the game where they lost control and gave the Danes the opportunity to do something. I think that would be the problem. If they're playing against a better side, a team that's way faster and way smarter in the attacking third, then we could be looking at a different outcome. But I think on today's performance, I kind of disagree with you again. I thought it would have been a travesty had the Germans not won this game. And that's only because of two chances that Højlund had. But at the end of the day, the Germans had so many opportunities.
The first 10 minutes, they had 5 chances to score.
Yeah. I mean, it's four corners, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's for me. I think when the Danes had the chances to score, is because the Germans were breathing a little bit. That's what you need to get the second breath. But overall, there is nothing to say.
What did you make of the lineup changes from Julian Nagelsmann today then, Jurgen? Obviously, we saw Leroy Sané from the start today, no Florian Wirtz, and then obviously bring Füllkrug into this conversation too. What did you make of his decisions today?
Well, they're totally fine. Obviously, when they win the game, then he did everything right. Obviously, and I mean, Sané, you can bring him always from the beginning on. It's not a problem. Instead of Wirtz, and Wirtz comes on in later, or do it vice versa. I mean, the key thing was the left defending side. Schlotterbeck had to come in for Tar. He was the second yellow carded, and Raum basically took the spot for Mittelstadt. And they did fine. I mean, it went all okay. I mean, Schlotterbeck did the beautiful assist for Musiala's goal then, the counter break in the second half. And so overall, it worked out. I mean, he continues to play Havertz as a false number 9 from the beginning on, brings in Füllkrug later on. Even Füllkrug could have scored a goal or two at the end of the game. So everything done okay. I mean, certainly what makes you a little tiny bit nervous as a German is that we give away still quite a few chances to the opponents. And I mean, not forget that the Switzerland game left us a little bit, with question marks because we equalized that game just in the very, very end of the game, and Switzerland could have won it. So it's not a surprise that actually Switzerland beats Italy. They should have beaten almost Germany just right before that. But I think when you kind of you're on the winning side, at the end of the day, you move on, and now comes the quarterfinals. So you grow as a group, you grow, you keep, the spirit is getting stronger and stronger. Obviously, the excitement in Germany is getting bigger and bigger because with every knockout game that you pass, the crowd will go, more and more excited, and the support is tremendous. Hopefully, the next game, the weather will be there as well.
Jurgen, can I ask you a question? What do you make of Sané? Sané, to me, is one of these guys that either wins you the cup final or gets you the sack. And actually, he's got a few Bayern Munich managers sacked. The guy looks so disinterested the majority of the time. And whenever he gets in good positions, for me, he drives me insane because he picks the wrong option. Even when there's 2 or 3, he picks the 4th one that's not on. He just drives me insane.
Yeah, so he's the type of a player that you as a manager, you would just love to fix. You try to, okay, maybe I can enter his brain. into his brain and make him be more consistent, make him, be more strategic, make the right, as you said, make the first thought priority and just execute your first thought and don't go with the second or the third thought, in his movements. But as surprising he is then to you as the manager for your own team and your own teammates, maybe he's even more surprising than to the opponents because they never know what he's doing in the next moment. So yeah, so maybe he's surprising now in the next game. Could possibly be Spain, and they don't know how to deal with him because he doesn't know it. He doesn't know himself what his next move is. But I mean, you have these exceptional talents in many teams, especially these wingers, in many teams in Europe, in the top teams. And you wonder, why are they not consistent enough? Why are they not scoring every year 10, 15 goals, giving you 10, 12 assists on a regular base? If it's on the English side, if it's on the French side, you have these similar player types. I mean, at Bayern Munich, behind Sané is Coman. Coman would play in any other Champions League team in Europe, and he's getting barely minutes there because Sané is ahead of him, Musiala is ahead of him, and so forth. But these type of players, yeah, they can they can challenge you, which is a fantastic thing for a manager to do. But they also can cost you, as you said, it can cost you your job and a lot of gray hair.
I think you never give up on those players because you always expect something special. And I think Sané is kind of the Dembele of Germany, where I call him the water pity. It's like you're always excited. You say, oh, something, oh, what a pity. And another chance, oh, what a pity. And that's what I see with Sané and what I see with Dembele. And you say, well, at one time he's going to pay. He's going to pay off. He's going to, oh, what a pity. But you don't want to give up because I guess we are stubborn.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely stubborn. Don't worry. These guys will be back answering your questions on Extra Time. You can always stay up to date with Extra Time over on our YouTube channel, where the panel answer the questions that you guys send in. All right, last night, Copa America action. Brazil had a big win over Paraguay, and we saw some nice goals from Vini Jr. as well. Let's send it out to Seb and the crew to talk more about the Copa.
Thank you very much, Kay. Brazil turning in a performance I think we've all been waiting for. 4-1 over Paraguay in Las Vegas. A couple goals for Vinicius Jr. Just how good was he, Herc?
He was excellent. Listen, go back to last game versus Costa Rica. Dorival Jr. was sending a message. 0-0, his team needs a goal. He takes out Vini Jr. Vini Jr., who's a Ballon d'Or candidate, one of the best players in the world with Real Madrid, who just came off winning the Champions League. And you're saying, no, step back. I need to see something from you. And he showed you something. He had 3 goals to his name with Brazil in over 30 appearances. He scored 2 tonight. His last goal for Brazil was over a year ago. If anybody desperately needed a good performance, needed a goal, it was Vini Jr. He got that. He looked confident. He looked good. He was arrogant on the ball in the best possible sense of the way, very Brazilian in that sense. And he was a constant threat and havoc for Brazil against what was
Paraguay.
Paraguay, thank you.
How do we explain, Casey, the difference between the Brazil we saw against Paraguay and the one we saw in the opener against Costa Rica, which really disappointed?
I think there was a few things that over those last couple matches, I saw a Brazilian side, and we've talked about this Brazilian side lacking, the Thiago Silvas, the Casemiros, and then let's go even deeper. Where's that Kaká playmaker in midfield? Those types of players. So we're trying to figure out with the new manager kind of what we're going to get. We've talked about kind of the young front attacking players that either starting or coming off the bench. And what I've kind of seen over those couple games was here a player has the ball, everybody else stands around and he tries to beat 6 guys and then doesn't quite work out. And then somebody else gets the ball in a position and tries to do something. We saw glimpses today where they started to work as a team, where they started to combine, where they started to connect those passes. Against the U.S., yeah, they created, chances, and Matt made some nice saves, but it didn't click when they needed it to. And it was almost like when it didn't click, okay, I'll do it myself. Today, we started to see maybe a little faith in each other, that if I give it to you, you'll give it to me, and we'll make something good happen. And if this team gets in that frame of mind we know the individual talent they have, get some confidence, they could surprise some people.
We've seen some highs from Colombia, from Uruguay. Did Brazil hit that tonight?
Oh, they definitely hit a high. This was a team that was struggling to connect, as Casey very well mentioned. In that final third, for as top-heavy as they are, you got Vinny, Rodrigo, Rafinha, Savio, Endrick, future superstar, and yet they weren't showing it. They weren't clicking. Now you got to put the rest together. I thought this was by far their best performance. They also missed a penalty kick. This could have been a lot uglier for a Paraguay team. And say what you want about them, but they usually defend well. They broke them down.
It got chippy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times when you could see that a Brazil side was, you know what, the criticism we're getting, we're gonna put it forth here.
Let's spin it forward to a massive game between Canada and Chile. Basically, winner takes all. If Chile can win, they got a good shot at second place. Not totally guaranteed. Canada win, they will be second place and will be in the quarterfinals. How do you see this one shaking out?
This is very interesting. What version of Canada are we going to get? The one that played very well against Argentina, or the one that looked very lackluster versus Peru? What version of Chile are we going to get? The one that looked very lackluster versus Peru, or the one that really impressed in their next game? Chile's the more experienced team. They've got the better players on paper.
Really? You think Chile have better players?
On resume.
Okay.
You got Alexis Sanchez, but he's 35 years old. You got
what about
Edu
on current
Vargas.
moment?
Current moment, I like the Canadian team. And here's the thing. I like the Canadian team in this matchup because they're going to be playing in Florida, in Orlando, under that sun against a long-in-the-tooth Chile team. If they can pick their moments, take their chances in transition, where they are so fast with Jonathan David, so fast with Alfonso Davies, Tejan Buchanan, Jacob Schaffelberg, I like Canada in this.
Are you worried that the way Jesse Marsch likes to play, high press, very Bielsa-ish, very kind of, I'm going to get in your face in that Florida heat?
Yes,
Are they
we saw it versus Peru.
Yeah,
they melted in Kansas
are they
City.
going to have to be very smart about picking and choosing their times to press, and then using the athleticism that you spoke about? Because Canada is full of athletes.
Yeah, my biggest worry for Canada is that Chile will make it a physical game like they did Argentina, and they won't respond well. Then Chile just takes over because they're going to be stronger in that midfield. Stronger with more wily veterans. But certainly the favorite in this one for me is Chile, but I think Canada can surprise them.
Who's your pick?
I think it'll be a draw and then kind of flip a coin on how that works.
Well, I think a draw,
Canada
probably gets
Canada.
Canada through, barring Peru beating Argentina. So we'll see what happens between Chile and Canada. Just another one of the great games here at the 2024 Copa America from our LA studios, Kay. We send it back to you.
Seb, we know that Frank likes Canada too. Anyway, Panama beat USA 2-1 on Thursday, with both teams having players sent off. For the USA, it was, of course, Tim Weah. He punched Panama player Amir Murillo in the game and then was given his marching orders. Victory took Panama level on 3 points then with USA, which has left the US men's national team in a precarious position ahead of their final Group C match against Uruguay on Monday. After the game, we heard the players reacting to Weah's red card.
Tim got bumped, he got checked, and he reacted. And, he apologized to the group. And, I think he understands what a difficult position he put the group in. Nonetheless, it happened. And, as a result, we lost this game.
Timmy knows the mistake he made. That's it. He's going to learn from it. It sucks. It's not the way you want to put your team in that position. It sucks. It hurts. It's just the minimum. It's a lapse of judgment.
Tim's took a risk that's led to us having to play with 10 men. It's unfortunate, but I think especially since we've been through something similar in the Nations League, it's something we should have learned from. So that makes it even more disappointing.
It's a shame because there was more in this game, and silly decision by Timmy, leaves us shorthanded.
Well, Tim Weah did take ownership and accountability after the game. Here's what he posted on Instagram. A moment of frustration led to an irreversible consequence. And for that, I am deeply sorry to my teammates, coaches, family, and our fans. Moving forward, I am committed to learning from this experience, not allowing an opponent to provoke me, and working to regain the trust and respect of my team and supporters. I'm so sad and angry at myself for putting my brothers through what they went through tonight. So that's what we heard from the player there. But as you did just hear from Greg Berhalter, he did say, as a result, we lost this game. And you were surprised to hear him say that, Frank?
Yeah, I was also surprised to say that Weah knew what he created against his own team. And hold on a second. I saw the goal they conceded, and I think Weah couldn't have helped anybody on the defensive first goal action or reaction that they didn't have. And the second goal, the goalkeeper's mistake. Yeah, it's a mistake, but don't give the ship to the wolves. And that's what he did for me. What he said in his press conference, what he did. And the players, yeah, he made a mistakes, but you played at home against Panama. You don't play against Brazil. You don't play against France or Italy. You play against Panama. And I'm sorry, you should be able, even 10 against 11, to sort out all the problems that we saw in that game. And it's not we are responsible for everything. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't agree with that. And I have been in those circumstances and had problems with France. And we never came to the camera and to the press after saying, "Oh, we lost because of him, because he got a red card." No, you play a collective game. Somebody can make a mistake, and you accept that, and you don't say too much.
Did he say a little bit too much? Jurgen Klinsmann is still with us. Do you think Berhalter did say a little bit too much after a situation like that, Jurgen?
Well, absolutely, because I mean, red cards happen. Mistakes happen. So he made a mistake. He recognized it, and he apologized for it. But when a mistake happens, your job is to fix it. So the teammates' job is on the field to fix it, and they even went and go up. So it looked all good. Then obviously Panama turned it around and won the game. But then to give Team Weah the default on this thing, this is absolutely not the right way to do it. And I just think that the team knows basically how to react when there is an issue with a red card. Tactically what to do. From a spirit point of view what to do. How to get your result that you badly want to get. So Timmy made a mistake. That's it. Move on. So I was really kind of surprised when I saw all these comments coming from left and right about Tim Weah. So this is just a normal incident of a game.
What are you smiling at, Stevie Nicol?
Well, I'm smiling because if you're Berhalter, every man and his dog is talking about how this cost them the game. So you don't need to say that. If he was smart, he would have just let everybody talk about how going down to 10 men cost them this game. He didn't need to say that. It was the wrong thing to do completely. Tim Weah, it will take Tim Weah more time to get over this than it will the rest of the team, because it's come from nowhere. If this had been something that he's done previously, something that we knew he was capable of, then it's a whole different ball game coming from your teammates. They would be, if this was another time that he stepped out of line, they will throw him under the bus, no danger. But it wasn't. It was one of those things, and there's not one of us that's ever been a professional player who hasn't done something, and if you're unlucky, you get caught. And if you're lucky, you get away with it. So we've all stepped out of line and put our team in jeopardy at least once. Now, this is his one time. He can't do it again. But for Berhalter to put this on him, yeah. Everybody's putting it on him anyway. Anybody with any sense knows that if it is 11-11, then the US would have won this game. Yes, the 2 goals could have been avoided, but the fact is, if it was 11-11, they would have won the game. So he didn't have to say that.
You know what? The captain, Mr. Pulisic, had the same reaction when the Panama player was sent off in the last, I think, 10 minutes of the game. And he went back up and went straight to fight with the player. He could have been red carded as well. So it can happen to everybody because it's a reaction. In tenths of a second, you have to react. And sometimes your ego talks. Sometimes just a human reaction happens. And of course, you're going to regret it. But as a teammate, you have to make sure we don't see that. And that's because you've done that mistake. We have to respond. Marcel Desailly was red carded in the final of the World Cup in '98 against Brazil. Nobody remember that because nobody talked about it. And nobody said, oh, we won. But Marcel Desailly made a big mistake. He has to apologize in front of everybody.
What minute was that, though?
Excuse me?
What minute of the game was that?
I think it was like 30 minutes before the end of the game. And I don't even remember. And we checked that. We talked with Aimé Jacquet. Emmanuel Petit came to play alongside me. Patrick Vieira came on. And everybody did the job. And we scored even a third goal. And it was against Brazil in the final of the World Cup. It wasn't against Panama at home. Come on, do the job, guys. Everybody, the coach, the players. And don't concede silly mistakes and silly goals.
Frank did bring up his World Cup there for the
Yes,
first
always.
time in the
I never
show.
noticed. Just in case. Just in case.
You're not the only World Cup winner on tonight, though,
Jürgen,
Frank.
just in case.
We've got Jürgen here with us. You do have to wonder, Jürgen, though, what elimination from the group stages would mean for Greg Berhalter.
Oh, I don't know, but I mean, this is just such a wonderful opportunity to play a Copa America, as the United States or Mexico, Canada, to play with the top 10 nations from down there. This competition, we played it in 2016. We got in the semifinal. Then we got a little lesson by Argentina in the semifinal, but reaching the Final Four was fantastic. It was huge. So with every game in this Copa America, you learn so much. And that's why I hope they're getting through, to the next stage, and maybe even making it to the semifinal would be fantastic, especially now 2 years away from the World Cup in the United States. So this is a huge, huge, huge opportunity. I always backed the United States Soccer Federation to give me that Copa America, to fly down there, play that, even get some defeats, get some lessons by the big ones, the Brazils, Argentinas, or Chiles of the world. But these games, they mean the world to all the players. And then you go through moments like that, even if you play a CONCACAF team like Panama and you kind of lose it a second like Team Vea did. This is all part of the process. This is part of the path towards the World Cup in 2 years. So I hope they're going to make it. I hope they're going to make it against obviously Uruguay is a tough one because they also have some ambition. But these games that they get right now in that Copa America, they're absolutely priceless.
Let's not forget it was the US Soccer Federation who rehired Berhalter as well, Stevie. Sebastian Salazar has said he should absolutely be out as manager if they don't advance. Do you agree with Sebi?
I would have agreed with Sebi had the reason for them not getting through this group down to the manager. But I really don't think you can turn around and say that. We've just been talking about the reason why they lost this game, and that wasn't to do with the manager. You got a man sent off after 18 minutes. I mean, come on, really. So, and the fact, as you said, they've just rehired them. They're not looking for any reason to get rid of them. They're looking probably for more reasons to keep them, and they'll probably be looking at it the same way as I am. If they don't go through, this is not because of the manager. This is because of what happened with the players on the field. So I guess the answer for me would be no.
A big no, but it is not the same answer from Sebi. And if you would like to hear more on why Sebi thinks that, go and check out our YouTube channel. You can keep up to date with everything that's going on in the Copa America and follow the US men's national team with all the big stories over there. So now that we've got Frank here, we're going to show you his bracket. And we do need to tell you that this was made before a ball had even been kicked in the last 16. So Frank, talk us through it.
So far, I'm good. but yeah, I try to, change my mind and not being too much on the fairy tale kind of prediction, comparing to the World Cup with Canada and Denmark. So have you seen, I put Denmark out, against Germany. So yeah, it's what I think that is possible. I said before the competition that, after the first game, when I saw Germany play, that Germany would be, for me, the favorite. So when I finally arrive at the end of the bracket and I see semi-final Germany for France, I say, ooh, I have to put Germany because I said it. And then on the other side, well, England, gonna go, even if I have a question mark against Switzerland, and we talked about that earlier. And also Austria, I think Austria is gonna go far because what they showed to us is they have a possibility because they're very solid to go far. And then the semi-final against England. So we'll see. But yeah, Germany against England.
Oh, you bet against the French.
Yeah, because I said that they're the favorite. So I have to be stubborn. I can change my mind. And you know what? And because it's Stevie there, I think Stevie will be very happy if England again loses in the final.
Right.
That's a double bluff.
Jürgen Klinsmann's still with us. We've got James Ollie with us as well, who's been following the England camp all the way so far. It is that round of 16 game coming up against Slovakia, of course. James, we want to talk a little bit about England and some of the points that we need to make ahead of this because they've not impressed so far. So are we going to see a different England now that it comes to the knockout rounds? Is there anything to suggest that there will be that from them?
Well, there's a bit of recent history in that, you know, there was a marked level in improvement in their performance in the last two tournaments. They weren't amazing in the group stage at the last Euros, and then they went and beat Germany 2-0 at Wembley, and that was a big moment for England because they don't have a great history of beating big teams in knockout matches. And then even in Qatar, when again they weren't great in the group stage, obviously drew 0-0 with the US, and then they beat Wales in the final group game. But they really took their game to another level by beating Senegal 3-0 quite comfortably in Al Bayt. So there is that to draw on, and I suppose there is also the argument that they can't really get any worse than they've been so far. I mean, defensively they've been pretty resilient, but against three fairly ordinary sides. So it's really the attacking element of it that you sort of want to hope to see some greater cohesion. I don't think there's going to be radical changes to the lineup. I think from what I'm told tonight, there might be one change. Kobbie Mainoo maybe coming into the midfield. I don't think there's going to be anything else. Possible Palmer or Gordon might get in, but I think he wants to go with that four that he's picked in every game to this point up top: Kane, Bellingham, Saka and Foden, and I hope that they can find some greater understanding than they've shown in the first three matches.
We're just taking a look at a possible starting 11 from you, James, here, and you've obviously mentioned that the changes that we might see when it does come to this. Jurgen, I just want to talk to you about this group because it's undeniably so talented, the names that you can see here. How does Gareth Southgate get the best out of them?
Well, you look obviously at the lineup or a possible lineup, and you see so much quality in that English side that you wonder, why can't they kind of play on a much higher level than they actually, at least the first three games played. I really have the hope. I have the hope that they kind of switch gear in a certain moment. Some players take more ownership of the game. You know, if it's coming from the back with Stones and into midfield, obviously Bellingham should be all over, the place, and Rice, and then obviously there's Harry Kane there that is a goal machine. So it's something that they have to find on the inside of the group, on the inside of their team. Yeah, absolutely. The manager plays his part of it, but when you see the progression from Russia to the Euros, then when they lost the final against Italy in the penalties, then they played a decent, good World Cup in Qatar, and now they are in these Euros. You just wish for them that they come on now, step it up, show me some extra pieces of your qualities that you undoubtedly have, and make yourself a real contender to win the Euros in Germany. This is what they are capable to do. They are capable to do that, but we're still waiting for this ignition.
Obviously, James, you were today at the press conference with Gareth Southgate and Harry Kane. Is there anything that stood out, particularly from the coach?
Well, I mean, he's trying to paint this sort of picture of calmness. This is kind of what he does at this stage of the tournament, really, and distance himself from what he calls the noise, and trying to say that he's not heard any of the criticism or is kind of oblivious to what's been said about the team's performances. I mean, we kind of know that isn't true because we know that the players in the camp have been talking about it. You've got to remember 12 of these 26-man squad have never been to a senior tournament before. And a lot of them are quite young, and to sort of separate them from their phones for 4 or 5 weeks while they're out here is just not realistic. And I think they've been seeing quite a lot of the criticism, particularly I think the first game when they won, there was a bit of a backlash to just how badly they played in that game, even though they beat Serbia. And I think that really took them by surprise. And then it obviously went to another level with the Denmark game when they were really lucky to get a draw. So I think it has been a topic of conversation within the camp, but when Gareth comes to speak to us, he sort of tries to paint this picture of the group are isolated from it. They can play golf, they can play paddle, they can go and do whatever they like around the camp and sort of switch off and then switch on again when it comes to obviously the games themselves. So both of them are quite relaxed. Harry Kane talked quite well about his record. I think it's 6 in 6 knockout matches for him. He tends to he's tried to sort of tailor his training to peak in these knockout rounds, and he's got a track record of doing that. So I think what they're trying to do is rely a little bit on their their sort of recent pedigree, if you like. So we know they got to the final of the last Euro, semi of the World Cup before that, quarter of the last World Cup. You know, they've got experience now in the squad of, or particularly in that first 11 anyway, of knockout round matches, what you need to do to get over the line in tournaments. And I think they take comfort from the fact that you can't win the tournament in the group stage, and just as well, given the way that England have been playing. So I think they feel within them that they've got the ability to go and peak and take that game to another level. But as Gareth said earlier, they've now got to go and prove it. I asked him a question about, no one will forget. No one will remember the group stage if they suddenly switch on and they beat Slovakia comfortably tomorrow, and then everybody's been talking about them as favourites and the bracket and the side of the draw and all this kind of stuff. It'll all flip with one narrative. And he sort of said, that is the reality, but they have to go and prove it. And there is a major question mark about whether they can kick on and really start playing well, given the level they've produced so far.
Well, they are heavy favourites heading into this clash, England against Slovakia. And that's not just with the odds makers, it's also with the ESPN FC panel as well. James, we thought we would show you the predictions across the board. Everyone's saying it will be a 2-0 win for England. None of us actually spoke or consulted one another before this. What's your reaction to this, James?
Well, again, it's just, did anyone watch the first 3 games? Or are we just doing this off, the recent record? I mean, I have to say, I did the YouTube show earlier on, right? I think it was just before the first game, and everybody then was saying to me, oh, this is it, this is England's time. And I was very, pessimistic probably. I was cautiously optimistic, let's put it that way, tilt it that way. Because they have got a good team. They have got a manager who's got the experience of negotiating these tournaments. He understands it. He is an effective communicator. But they haven't proved it. They don't have a good record on foreign soil. Euro 96 was at Wembley. 66, the only tournament they've ever won, was at Wembley. The final of the last Euros, that whole tournament, apart from one game, was at Wembley. They don't have a history of A, doing it on foreign soil, and B, beating big nations. Now, they're not going to necessarily have to do that by the looks of it, given the bracket that they're in. But having all the confidence in the studio there is being taken on just the individuals, and they have to come together as a team. And I was also in the Slovakia press conference earlier, actually, before Gareth and Harry came in, and they were very focused on the collective. They believe they've got a team, whereas England are perhaps the much better group of individuals. No one denied that. They were all quite clear that there's a golfing quality there. But they are a unit, Slovakia. They do work for each other, and there is a cohesion and a structure to them that we really haven't seen from England yet. And what does worry me a little bit is they are improvising. Gareth Southgate is improvising. He came into this tournament trying Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. It didn't work. He threw on Conor Gallagher to start in that change against Slovenia. He took it. Mainu in the second half of that game. It looks like he's going with Mainu tomorrow, and so there's a lot of unknowns. If it clicks, then 2-0 could look could look conservative tomorrow. They could put on a real performance, but it's a bit of a leap of faith at the moment to suggest that it's going to, with any confidence that's definitely going to happen.
We're not going to have any more faith in your Wi-Fi connection right now anyway, James. We're going to let you go and quit while we are ahead. Let's hope England are better than that connection. Of course, Jurgen's Wi-Fi connection, German efficiency, fantastic throughout. Thanks so much for both guys for being with us, Jurgen and James. We'll be speaking to you again soon right here on ESPN FC. There's, of course, another game coming up between Spain and Georgia. And wow, these two teams have met each other a number of times. There was obviously that big triumph in qualifying, 7-1, that finished to Spain. But just check that out. In June 2016, Georgia did win a friendly back then, 1-0.
Yeah, let's go back.
Let's hope for a little bit of hope.
That century.
If we
By
can.
the way, some of the Spanish players had only just been born back then.
Oh, you were
Lamine Yamal was,
give them something.
was even at school.
It's their first Euro, We don't know what their record in Euro tournament is against Spain. We're about to find out tomorrow. And this is how we are going with it. Frank and Kay, Spain 3-1.
Yeah.
Jurgen Klinsmann 2-0. He just couldn't be bothered tonight, could he? Just
Yeah,
said 2-0 for
2-0,
everybody.
2-0, yeah.
Stevie Nicol 2-1 for Spain as well. We'll be looking back on these games. England against Slovakia tomorrow. Thanks so much for being with us. If you have been watching us on YouTube today, Head on over to ESPN Plus for the rest of the show. If you're watching us on ESPN Plus, stay right where you are.